Hello and welcome to the group presentation by Angela Larson, Lynn Manon, Lauren Mizell, Hannah Zerger for the Children's Services and Social Work course led by Professor Sherry Claudio. So our fictional family is named the Cooley family. It's made up of 5 individuals. The mother, Shanna Cooley, who is a 29-year-old single mother, and then her 4 children, with the oldest being Ava, who is 11, and the youngest being Xavier, who is 2. So the family has been experiencing a traumatic event. 2 years ago, the father was killed in a drive-by shooting due to gang violence, and Xavier's biological dad isn't involved in his life. So Shayna has the primary private provider for her family, as well as her mother, who helps out but is getting older and is not able to help out with as many household duties. So Ava is the oldest child, and she is often responsible for helping cook meals for her siblings and walk them to the bus stop. And she has a couple of friends, but she's extremely nervous about creating friendships in middle school. And she's artistic and creative and turns to journaling to reveal her emotions, as she's been struggling with the grief of her father. Nevaeh is rebellious and loves to challenge authority. She loves sports and enjoys staying active, but recently hasn't been able to play on her local soccer team due to her family not having budget for the extracurricular activities. Caden is the quiet and well-behaved one, and then Xavier is developmentally delayed, and he's still learning to walk with balance and improve his coordination. So the child that we're going to focus on is Ava Cooley. She's usually intelligent and excited to learn, but this school year is different. She's still struggling with the grief of losing her father and hasn't discussed her emotions in detail with anyone. She feels overwhelmed with her responsibilities as the oldest sibling. She feels isolated in social settings, doesn't have the desire to connect with her classmates, and she's beginning to struggle with her diet and notices changes in her appetite, and she's having problems eating. And her school counselor notices all of these things, and she suggested to enroll Ava in sessions pending her parental consent with her mother. And Ava feels like the counselor maybe won't understand what she's going through. So the school counselor reached out to Ava's mom and obtained that consent to go ahead with some counseling. So the theory that our group really felt was most applicable to this would be Bronfenbrenner's ecological theory, which really looks at the human development in a cultural perspective with the 3 systems, the microsystem being Ava and her interactions with her family and her school personnel, the mesosystem being the link between Ava's family and the systems at her school, and then the macrosystem being how Ava is affected by society and culture, including government, such as the SNAP program that provides food for her family and other social services that could assist them. So some of the strategies and techniques that we're going to kind of try with Ava is really going to focus on building her resilience in the 4 categories of resilience. So her social competence, her problem solving, her autonomy, her sense of purpose. Considering all of these numerous factors affecting Ava as they relate to her familiar school and societal systems, we're going to use more specific techniques such as relationship building with warmth and empathy, positive regard, some modeling, kind of leading by example with healthy coping behaviors, skill building, helping her create healthy habits such as exercise and nutrition, and then role playing to help Ava build her self-expression and confidence and assertiveness. So the behavioral plan and intervention, some of the antecedents to Ava's behavior is her grief and not knowing how to cope with and process the loss of her father, as well as her kind of gastrointestinal issues stemming from some of her anxiety, not eating well, and the behavior that people really are witnessing from her is that she's very withdrawn, she's hiding in her room, she's pushing food around her plate and not eating, she's refraining from school activities, and then when she's at school, she's hiding in the bathroom. And some of the consequences are the lethargy, the depression, her delayed menstrual cycle, some isolation, lack of friends. So we're going to look at her current baseline, and that is that she currently hides in her bedroom 4 to 5 nights per week. She finishes only half her meals or none at all, and she misses 3 to 4 classes per week. So the plan that we're going to make moving forward is her goal is to attend grief counseling twice per week with Healing Hearts, which is a local group for kids Ava's age where they can really kind of process the loss of their family members and loved ones. And then she will agree to join for a family dinner 5 times per week and complete her meals to kind of help her quit withdrawing into her room and help improve her appetite. And then she's going to improve her school tardiness and her attendance this semester by 30%. So some of the strategies for change that we're going to use is teaching her coping skills like her journaling strength, and work on her relationship building by partnering with a peer in the grief counseling. And then the school counselor, we're going to create a contingency contract, which we'll get into more in a bit. And then we're going to use reward with school bucks, which we'll get into in a bit as well. So some of the plan implementation is we'll be utilizing token economy by rewarding Ava with school bucks for every week of participation. She can use these to purchase her snacks at lunch, and this will motivate her to improve her attendance and participation. The counselor will also sit with Ava and create a mutually agreed upon contingency contract in which if she attends grief counseling and her family dinners for 2 weeks straight, the counselor will bring a meal of Ava's choice to their weekly check-in. And we'll measure progress by having weekly progress check-ins and weekly behavioral interviews. So the counselor can kind of ask Ava if she will want to share any journaling from that week, and then print out a summary of Ava's attendance and grades, as well as speaking to her mother and get a feel of how things went at home. And just kind of ask Ava how she thinks her week went from a scale of 1 to 10. So using a scaling method there. And then if the week wasn't so good, try to use some reframing. If she hasn't made good progress, that growth is not linear, and that just because you had a bad week doesn't mean you have to have a bad month, And then as far as her behavioral plan and intervention, we're going to reinforce success by highlighting and celebrating small goals that Ava makes towards the target behavior using a form of behavior chaining. So what that could look like is, even if she's still tardy, if her attendance is doing well, we can still focus on that and reward that behavior as a step in the right direction. Or if her grades just move the tiniest bit, like from a D to a C, we can notice that and really celebrate that. Every small step until we reach the target behavior. And the counselor will also kind of advise Ava's mother to do the same at home. And then as far as planning for maintenance of gains, as part of the termination of services, counselor will help Ava summarize how far she's come and the growth she's made, and kind of make a safety plan moving forward of who she can reach out to for help, and also referring her out to outpatient counseling or other resources in the community, because there's only so far a school counselor can go with a student before having to refer them out. So they will also have a termination session with Ava's mother and make a plan to continue with the interventions and the positive behaviors that they've seen. And of course, the counselor will always be at school and be able to check in occasionally at Ava's request. So our group thought the most difficult part of developing this case study was ensuring validity. Although the Cooley family was fictional, authenticity of the family struggles while aiming to not overgeneralize or stereotype provided some challenges. when creating members of the family, it's important to not misinterpret and be aware of our own unconscious bias and not assume that socioeconomic class led to their hardships. And Bronfenvenner's ecological systems theory is chosen because it stems from a framework of interconnectedness, that is, culturally applicable theory that looks at all of the systems in a person's environment from which they grow. While Bronfenbrenner's theory didn't take religion or spirituality into account, the modern-day macrosystem does include that. And then here are some of our references. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it.